Hello everybody, thanks very much indeed for joining us at the Lausitzring as we get set in just under 5 minutes time for the first of two 45-minute free practice sessions. It is the second weekend of DTM 2021. Sunshine is out again as it was at Monza, and the air temperature has been creeping up over the last couple of hours, and it's now just over 24 degrees. So good conditions here, pretty still in the air, fairly humid as well, and the cars and the teams getting ready to head to the circuit in what's going to be an important session for them. My name's Chris Hartley. I'm going to be talking you through all of the sessions, both the free practice sessions and of course all of the qualifying and race sessions over the coming 3 days. And as many of you may have read, we are using a different layout of the circuit here at the Lausitzring than has ever been used before in the DTM. So pre-season, they use the traditional format, the Grand Prix layout, which is the circuit version that's normally used here at the Lausitzring. So going over the tri-oval banking, they turned off just before turn one. They can see that left turn just before the tri-oval on the right. That's where they normally turn off the circuit, but this weekend they're going to be going all the way around the outside. So that first left-hander using the first turn of the banking, which is just under 6 degrees in terms of the angle of the corner, and the corner itself is 300 meters long. So you imagine they're already carrying a fair bit of speed when they go into that turn, and then coming out of that turn they head down the back straight of the tri-oval before they turn off banking just before the second banked corner. That then becomes turn two, and that's where they rejoin effectively the Grand Prix layout that they'd previously used. So even though they're missing out a couple of infield twisty sections, the circuit is actually a little bit longer than the Grand Prix version, this hybrid version that it's being used this weekend. So it's 4.53 kilometres, which is just about 180 metres longer than the normal Grand Prix layout. But of course the test is going to be that the circuit in terms of your setup is going to require some compromise, because you've got these incredibly quick turns, turn one, and then when they come back onto the banking at turn 10, all the way along that straight. I mean, from turn 9 all the way through turn 10, down the start-finish straight, through 300 metres of turn 1, down the back straight into turn 2, right on the other side of the circuit. They're going to be absolutely flat out. So you need a car which is quick in a straight line. The thinking is that the cars are going to have very little downforce on them in terms of the settings of the cars, because they'll, you know, if you haven't got any straight line speed around such a large part of the lap, you're going to be a sitting target when it comes to the race sessions. But that then means you're not going to have huge amounts of grip in the infield section, so the cars could be quite loosely set up. Whatever setup you go for, whether it's for high speed or for a car which is quicker through the slower turns, you've got to compromise. You can't have the best of both worlds on this layout. Now, as I said, they usually use the Grand Prix version. This is the first time they've used this layout. They did try to use this layout years and years ago, back in 2003, but there was damage to some tyres. Christian Abt and Laurent Aiello suffered tyre damage on their Dunlop tyres back at the time. Other problems for other teams in free practice on Friday, and there was a very late decision to return to the Grand Prix circuit when it got to race day, so it was never actually used. They also were here pre-season testing, albeit in slightly, well, very much cooler conditions, but that was on the Grand Prix layout as well. So this is a venture into the unknown, except for the fact that because the circuit layout has had this late change, they did get the opportunity to go out and test this morning for 40 minutes. So very early start to the weekend for the DTM drivers. At 9 o'clock they had a 40-minute session out just to get some testing on this circuit to try and give them a bit of a head start, a bit of a heads up in terms of what setup they're going to require for this hybrid layout of the circuit. So this is actually, of all the circuits on the calendar in the DTM, this is the newest of them, the newest German circuit. However, it's also been one of the most used in the DTM. It's fourth on the list of circuits that have hosted the most DTM races, with 29, the Lausitzring. Normally, as I say, on the Grand Prix circuit, we were here twice last year during the main pandemic year, 2 back-to-back weekends. One was on the Grand Prix layout, the other was on the shorter sprint layout. So it's a circuit which is well used, and happily this weekend, when we get to Saturday and Sunday, we're going to have the return of fans to the circuit as well. So it's going to be 10,000 fans that are going to be allowed into this huge huge area here at the Lausitzring circuit, which was opened and set up for IndyCar racing back in the year 2000. And an absolutely huge venue. The grandstands here, which are empty today, can hold 120,000. The main grandstand alone, which overlooks the start-finish line, can seat 25,000 spectators. So 10,000 people sounds like a lot, but you know, in the context of how big this place is, it's still going to be a relatively small crowd. But it's just good that we've got some people back here live to watch the qualifying and race sessions over the next couple of days. So the cars going out onto the track. The 45-minute session is underway, and we've got 19 entries for this second weekend of the season. There will be a few drivers dipping in and out of the championship this year, but for this weekend the lineup is the same as we had at Monza a few weeks ago, where we had some history-making results. We had the youngest ever race winner in the DTM, with Liam Lawson taking victory on his debut, the 19-year-old New Zealander. And we also had a rookie victory for Kelvin Van Der Linde, albeit he's a very experienced driver, but in terms of DTM, he is a newcomer. So 2 rookies winning. Kelvin Van Der Linde was the top scorer of the weekend, got that win. He had a pole position in qualifying as well, which gets you an extra 3 points. And he had a 5th place finish in race 1. So Kelvin Van Der Linde for Audi comes here as the championship leader on 38 points. Liam Lawson had 1 good race and 1 bad race, because after winning the first one, he then he qualified well, got onto the front row of the grid, but he was carrying weight penalties, because this year if you finish in the top 3 in the race, for the next qualifying and the next race, you have to carry success ballast, and for the winner you have to carry an extra 25 kilograms of ballast, 18 for second, 15 kilograms if you finish 3rd. There were also some tweaks to the BOP, the balance of performance, and the Ferraris on day 2 at Monza had to carry an extra 30 kilograms on top of that success ballast that Liam Lawson was carrying. So it had a much heavier car, heavier to brake, heavier to accelerate, less well handling. He still was going pretty well at the start of the race. They had a really good battle for 4th place, for 2nd place rather, early on in the race. That involved Nico Muller and Sheldon van der Linde. He eventually dropped back from that battle into the clutches of Esteban Moot in the Lamborghini. The pair came together in the chicane, and Liam Lawson dropped down the order, so he didn't finish in the points in race 2. Could only come home in 14th place. Despite that, though, he is 2nd in the championship because of that win and the points he picked up in the qualifying session. So Kelvin Van Der Linde, 38 points. Liam Lawson 2nd on 27, 11 points behind. Nico Muller, who picked up his first podium of the year in race 2 with a strong 2nd place finish. He's 3rd in the standings on 22 points. Runner-up in the championship for the last 2 seasons, Nico Muller. And Vincent Abril, who got pole position on his qualifying debut on day 1 at Monza. He's 4th in the championship on 21 points. Alex Alban had a very good drive through the field in race 1 to get 4th place. Solid 7th place finish for the ex-Formula 1 racer, Formula 1 reserve driver for Red Bull Racing. Alex, in the AF Corsa Ferrari, teammate to Liam Lawson, arrives here in the championship standings 5th on 18 points, with Max Gotts, who got his first podium in DTM in race 1 at Monza, 6th in the standings on 16 points. So that's the way it stands. So in terms of past data and lap times, we haven't got any reference points now that we've got this new layout to the circuit, and so we're going to be carefully keeping an eye on the times during this free practice session and the next to come later on at the end of the afternoon. I think one thing is for sure, the drivers will want to be out there as much as they can, particularly for some of them, not just is this a new layout for the circuit, for those returning DTM drivers, people like Nico Muller and Mike Rockenfeller and Danny Hunkadea and Timo Glock and those drivers that have been here before. They've got this new layout, but of course a lot of drivers coming into DTM for the first time this season are completely new to the Lausitzring, certainly in these types of cars. So there'll be a lot of drivers getting a lot of mileage in, one suspects, in this session. Already busy out on circuit. It's a pretty long lap, so there's no excuses really in terms of getting held up with traffic. And there you can see Timo Glock had a difficult weekend, I think it's fair to say, at Monza. Ex-Grand Prix racer had a non-finish and a 17th place finish, so he's yet to pick up a point in the championship. Only Arjun Miney, Esme Hawkey, Dev Gore, Sophia Florsch and Timo Glock failed to score points at Monza. Timo Glock, you would hope to be a driver up there with all of his experience, so he'll be hoping for a reset here. Kelvin Van Der Linde and his teammates at Rover Racing had a much better weekend. He's 8th in the championship, had a 4th place finish in race 2 when the BMWs were much more competitive than they had been on day 1. For now, Kelvin Van Der Linde, his older brother, the championship leader, has set the best time of the session with a 1:32.606. Kelvin carrying one of the onboard cameras that we have on the cars during the course of this weekend. Arjun Miney, the Indian driver, only 12 thousandths of a second behind him in these early stages with a 1:32.618. But that's just, that's Philip Ellis. Arjun Miney was second. Philip Ellis has just split them, so that's the gap back from first to second. Arjun Miney's a 10th behind in third. Kelvin Van Der Linde in fourth. And Nico Muller on his first attempt has just gone up to 5th place. But there's a good lap underway for Daniel Hungadea, who had the absolute best first sector so far. The first sector is just shy of 20 seconds for a quick time. He's done a 19.9. Second sector is a personal best. So Hungadea, who's currently in 6th place, I think is about to move up the order if he can hold it together through the final part of the lap. Hungadea goes through, and yes, indeed, goes up to 4th quickest. So an Audi top of the times, Kelvin Van Der Linde, and then the Mercedes follow 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th. Ellis, Miney, Hungadea and Gotts. Best BMW, Kelvin Van Der Linde, who's currently in 6th place. On board with Maximilian Buch, who is standing in for these first 2 weekends of the 2021 season for the double champion Gary Paffett, who's had to miss them due to Formula E duties. There's a Formula E race weekend in London this weekend, and it's a busy weekend actually. You've got Formula E, which Sportsline are one of the teams taking part with Lucas de Grassi and Reddy Rast. You've also got Spa 24 Hours this weekend, and Kelvin Van Der Linde is competing at Spa as well as here at the Lausitzring, so he'll be dashing between the 2 venues via, I suspect, helicopter to do his stints and his sessions over at Spa, while he tries to concentrate on defending this early championship lead. On board with Maximilian Buch then, so this is an onboard run into turn 1 now, 300 metres long. Hang on to it for dear life, just a little twitch on the exit there, still turning, he's still turning out onto the wide part of the banking. You can see him out of the commentary box window, now going down towards the braking zone, where eventually he'll hit the brakes and slow the car down for turn 2, carrying enormous speed through there. Then you turn through the infield section, through the right at turn 3, almost a sweeping hairpin through the left-hander at turn 4. And then a short straight as you accelerate towards a right-hand, even wider hairpin at turn 5. Speed up again, and then on the brakes, down the gears, turn right, hits the apex pretty well. A few bumps on the circuit as well, as you can see. Lausitzring is a notoriously bumpy circuit in parts, so that's another thing that can unsettle the cars and the tyres. So good to see Maximilian Buch there in the Muka Motorsport Mercedes AMG, riding on board with him around part of the lap, including that fantastic run through turn 1. This tri-oval banking. Right, there we get to see Sophia Florsch. Now, Sophia has said in pre-event press releases that this is far from her favourite circuit. However, she's still really looking forward to this challenge of driving the first 300-metre long banked turn. She's with the Alban Sportsline team, and she was here. She has been busy racing in the World Endurance Championship as well this year. She's had a 6th place finish at Portimao, her best result so far. One of her teammates is Tatiana Calderon, ex-Formula 3 racer and now an endurance racer. And her other teammate is Weizke Visser, who was in action at Silverstone last weekend in the W Series. Just the first season runner-up of the W Series, taking part in the 2nd round of the season at Silverstone, part of the British Grand Prix. Esme Hawkey, somebody else that's had W Series experience, but concentrating on GTs this year. Also a Porsche Carrera Cup GB champion, a Pro-Am champion last year in the Porsche Carrera Cup with Team Parker. had late change of plan to what she was going to race this season. A deal fell through, and because of the deliberately late start to the season for the DTM this year, this was the one championship where she hadn't missed any rounds, so came into DTM very late notice, but I think put in a really credible performance given the lack of time she'd had in the car when she got to Monza, where she had raced before, albeit in a Porsche. To my knowledge, she's not raced here at the Lausitzring before, but one of the qualifying sessions, Esme did a really good job to qualify in 12th position. Lamborghini Huracan V10 engine, normally aspirated, and she's teammates with Esteban Moot, T3 Motorsport, running the team. They have bought a third car, T3 Motorsport, so there is a possibility that they're going to run another car, a third car, later in the season. That car being used for the rest of the year in the ADAC GT Masters Championship. Young Maximilian Paul that might come and do some DTM outings, potentially in the car. He's a Lamborghini Junior, but for this weekend, just the two cars still. Right, here's the acceleration then. I was going to say out of turn, out of the final turn, but that's bailing for the pits, that one. So into the pits comes Esme. First taste of the circuit. Times are relatively close, given that some of them have only just been out there and done a couple of recce laps. Daniel Hunkedale has now gone to the top of this free practice time with a 1:32.145. He's a 10th quicker than Max Scott's. Kelvin Van Der Linde, who's like Daniel Hunkedale in the pits now, he's third. And there's Arjun Maini, who is doing a good job here in fourth place. A little bit of drama when the wheel came off during one of the qualifying sessions at Monza. You can see there the rear wing being adjusted on the Team Get Speed Mercedes. And that's going to be one of the key factors here, getting that right amount of rear wing to get the cars quick enough in a straight line, but give you enough grip when you get to those corners. Off the banking though, there are not really any high-speed corners here in the infield section. So Arjun Maini is second ever weekend as a DTM racer. Plenty of experience he's managed to pack into his young years. He's only 23. From Bengaluru in India. Was a development driver for the Haas Formula 1 team a few years ago for a couple of seasons. Been racing in the Asian Le Mans series with some good success over the last 2 or 3 years. But prior to that, had plenty of single-seater experience in Formula 3, GP3, even got up to Formula 2 at one point. Got a couple of good, in fact 3 fifth-place finishes, which all came on street circuits at Monaco and at Baku. Now we're looking at Lucas Auer then. Now he's one of the drivers that gave really positive feedback about the new look, the new format to the cars and the racing in DTM after Monza. Nico Müller was another one of the very positive drivers about the way that the racing panned out and the way the balance of performance evened things out. And one of the things that both Lucas Auer and Nico Müller said was that the fact that you're racing these different types of cars now, that really presents a challenge as a driver, because as Nico Müller said, which type of car you're behind, which type of car you're trying to overtake really affects what your style of driving is. You have to approach each of them, which each have their own strengths and weaknesses in different sections of the circuit in different ways. And Lucas Auer has said, you know, there might be a little bit less overtaking than we had in the previous era of DTM, but these are proper overtakes now. You don't have push to pass, you don't have DRS, where, in Lucas Auer's words, overtaking was much easier. Now you have to really fight for your overtake. So there's some proper racing out there, and that was very much demonstrated at Monza. There was some terrific racing, I thought.
I did not copy.
So Lucas Auer testing team radio, but not being particularly clear, neither to us nor his race engineer. And there goes Lucas flying along that tri-oval banking. See just underneath me Esteban Moot charging into turn one as well in his Lamborghini. Didn't really pick up the points that I think he probably deserved, because he was very quick, was Esteban Moot, in the first weekend at Monza, and that was shown by his qualifying performances. Esteban coming home with 2 fifth-place finishes in the qualifying sessions, making him one of the best qualifiers of the weekend. Kelvin Van Der Linde and Liam Lawson also averaging 5th. Best qualifier on average, though, so far. Vincent Abril at a pole and a 6th place. Right, on board with the AF Corsa Ferrari. And you ride with Liam Lawson, race winner at Monza. And a busy chap at the moment because he's also racing in the FIA Formula 2 Championship. So he too was at Silverstone last weekend. Had an okay weekend, a 5th, a 7th and an 11th. But there wasn't too much in the way of overtaking in Formula 2 at Silverstone last weekend. So it was a lot of it about how you qualified, particularly in the sprint races. But he did okay, he picked up some more decent points. He's racing with a high-tech team in Formula 2, Liam Lawson, and already a race winner as well. In fact, he might have had 2 race wins, but one of them was taken away from him on a technicality at Monaco, one of the sprint race victories that he had picked up. So doing well his first season in Formula 2. Liam Lawson currently 8th in the championship standings. As you ride on board now with Arjun Maini going on the attack. 5th quickest at the moment, only 0.26 seconds away from the fastest time of the session. And Arjun now making his way underneath the commentary box. There he goes, flashing down beneath me. I'm on top of the grandstand, which overlooks the start-finish line, and there he goes, flat into turn 1. And you can see the rear wing flapping around, the huge speed that they carry through there. Absolutely flat out. Fastest time for Arjun Maini, 1:31.882 seconds. Gained nearly half a second compared to his previous best lap. Was over 2/10 down, he's now over 2/10 up. So Arjun Maini now the quickest driver, 1:31.882, which shows he's got great commitment and great bravery around here, and he's got a car which is set up well. So Arjun Maini doing good things there for Team Get Speed, team which is based at Muispath, which is right by the Nürburgring, which is unfortunately, sad to say, an area in Germany which has been badly hit in the Eifel area by these terrible, terrible floods that we had last week. Huge condolences on behalf of everybody at DTM to everybody that's suffered with that. Some fatalities, a lot of fatalities, unfortunately. A lot of people with their homes and businesses destroyed. And the clear-up operation still goes on. A year's worth of rain in just over a day and a half. So huge condolences to them, to everybody involved. It's a terrible thing to happen. As we get back on board with the Get Speed car, the team run by Adam Mosiaka, and Arjun Maini goes through. 1:31.882 is his best. He's just done a 1:32.1, so a tad slower, but actually that lap he's just done would have been quick enough for the fastest time as well. So he's now got the fastest 2 times of the session, Arjun Maini. Only about half the cars out on circuit, so he's got more or less a clear track, as you can see. And here he goes, turning off the tri-oval into turn 2, straight into the right-hander at turn 3. Tyre stack just off the curb to make sure the drivers don't cut corners. Car just fighting against it, just a little bit understeery now through the left-hander at turn 4. Onto that back straight towards the right-hand hairpin, albeit a pretty wide sweeping hairpin, as Arjun heads into the braking zone for turn 5. Through that he turns. And that looked pretty handy. Hit the apex nicely. Looking like another decent lap this. 19.7 seconds through the first set, so it's pretty tidy. So it's not his personal best, but it's looking like another quick lap that for Arjun Maini. Excellent stuff from him. Right, back on board with Kelvin Van Der Linde, the championship leader. How's he getting on at the moment? He's just got up to 3rd place, actually, with that lap, 1:32.263. So Arjun Maini, 1:31.882. Daniel Hungadea is back out now as well. Makes it a Mercedes 1-2, 1:32.145 for him. Look how close Kelvin Van Der Linde gets to the wall there on the banking as he brakes before he turns off onto the infield. Van Der Linde, the best Audi. Kelvin Van Der Linde in 3rd. Max Scott's Mercedes 4th. Philip Ellis Mercedes 5th. And Esteban Moot for Lamborghini in 6th place. Muller is 7th. Abril is 8th. Best BMW is now Sheldon Van Der Linde in 9th place. And then to complete the top 10, we've got Lucas Auer. The gap from 1st to 10th though, is just 0.78 seconds. So that's incredibly tight as well. So there's the team Sportsline driver, Kelvin Van Der Linde, who lives in Germany, lives not too far from the base of the team, shares a flat with his brother Sheldon. Kelvin, the older of the two. Sheldon still only just 21 years of age. On the podium here at the Lausitzring, Kelvin Van Der Linde last year, and a race winner at Assen last year. So the more experienced DTM driver, but Kelvin Van Der Linde, a Nürburgring 24-hour winner, a double GT Masters champion. Great pedigree he's got, great experience, and he's brought all of that to the table so far in DTM. Arjun gone to the pits now, having set the fastest 2 times of the session so far. He's the only driver into the 131s, a 131.882 for Arjun. He's 0.263 seconds quicker than Danny Hunkadea. And Kelvin Van Der Linde, who you ride with now, is just over 3/10 down, 132.223. It's only 47 thousandths clear of Max Gotts. So those 2 times pretty evenly matched. And who should be behind him but little brother? So Sheldon following him round. They're not teammates, far from it. Not brand mates either this year. So Sheldon Van Der Linde and Kelvin Van Der Linde both out for their own honours this year, but maybe Sheldon just trying to see if he can pick up any tips from Kelvin, who's the quicker of the 2 at the moment. They're 3rd and 9th respectively. And the Rover Racing BMW, the traditional yellow and white colour scheme, Hans-Peter Naundorf's team. With a good result last month in the Nürburgring 24-hour race, 2nd place finish for Rover Racing with Conor De Filippi. Martin Tomczyk, who commentates on DTM these days, former champion of DTM, was in there as well. Sheldon Van Der Linde, who you've been watching, and Marco Wittmann, 2-time DTM champion, was the other driver in that podium finishing Rover Racing squad at the 2021 Nürburgring 24 hours. So quite a few cars in the pits. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cars in the pits. Mine has just gone back out, and a few drivers just building up speed. So the quickest driver on track at the moment is Daniel Hunkadea, just on a 133.347. Miney on his first lap since rejoining, pretty quick as well, 133.788. And we've had a 132 for Max Gotts, who's the quickest driver out there by 10th. Max Gotts and Sheldon Van Der Linde are just in the high 1:32s at the moment. So now looking at Philip Ellis, another of the rookies in this year's DTM Championship. And misfortune after a really good start in race 1 at Monza, where the car lost drive and power and stopped on lap 2. But he looked pretty handy out there and looked good in race 2 as well, taking a 6th place finish on the Sunday at Monza. He's German-British heritage, born in Munich, but moved to Switzerland when he was 6 years of age. And Philip Ellis, former Audi Sport TT Cup champion, one of the drivers coming into DTM for the first time this season. So tomorrow will be his 3rd race in the championship. Any more improvements out there? And a few green sector times. So Philip Ellis did a personal best in the first sector, 19.887 seconds. Nico Muller's on a personal best lap as well. Did a 19.9 in the first sector, a 38.7 in the second sector. So Muller is currently in the mid-132s. I reckon he could get up to 4th or 5th place if he holds the lap together. Sophia Florsch's best lap so far is a 134.3. She's just done a 20.6 through the first sector, so that's about 7 or 8 tenths of a second down on the absolute best first sector times that we've seen. In addition to her racing activities in the World Endurance Championship, which she's had 3 races so far this season, she's also been doing some demo laps at the Red Bull Ring, part of the Grand Prix weekend in Austria. She was doing some demo laps around Spielberg. in the Audi R8 in the LMS car during the Grand Prix weekend there. So she's another very busy, in-demand driver at the moment, looking to pick up her first points this weekend if she can in DTM. 134.315. So the gap from first to 19th is 2.1 seconds, and coming down, we've got the top 13 covered now by just about 9/10 of a second. Philip Ellis, who you're looking at, has progressed up to third place now with a 132.219. And he's done the personal best in the first sector as well, 19.874 seconds. So that's a very good start to the lap for Philip. And he's pushing on now in the number 57 Team Winward Mercedes AMG to see if he can get even higher up the order. He's only 0.3 of a second away from the fastest time. No improvement for him in the second sector. It's just under 38.9, so that's about half a second away from the absolute best second sector. We've got 3 drivers now that have set best sector times. 3 different drivers, so nobody's got the perfect lap. Miney's got the absolute best first sector time. Kelvin Van Der Linde has got the absolute best second sector time. And Philip Ellis has got the best third sector time. So it just shows what I was talking about earlier in terms of compromise on the setup that you've got. Now you're looking at Dev Gore, currently 15th place in the Audi, and another newcomer to the DTM this season. So the American driver, who is teammates this year at Team Rosberg to Nico Muller, only 23, comes from Oklahoma City, and he's only been racing anything for 6 years. He's a late starter. Only started karting when he was 18 years of age. Won the US Karting Championships in the DD2 gearbox category in only his second season of racing in 2016, then went in his third season of racing into cars in the US Formula 2000 Championship in 2017, where he did pretty well, finished in 13th place in his first year of cars. Since done some Euro Formula Open racing, a bit of Blancpain, and the Toyota Racing Series. Didn't do much, if anything, last year, but now finds himself in the DTM. One retirement and got stuck after an accident in the gravel trap in race 1 at Monza. So he too is looking for his first points of the season if he can get them. Right, the Rover Racing BMW of Timo Glock.
And it's in the same angle like you had before?
About to go out. You heard from him on the radio.
Yeah, it's comparable to what we had in the first session. The same amount to the right now.
So Glock goes back out. Sounds like they've tweaked the setting.
So from your side it's impossible, it's too much, so we will have to put in then.
But the setup change hasn't worked, so it sounds like Timo is coming back in.
Copy, come in, box.
So Glock on his way back in. We've had improvements from Max Buch, who's into 10th place now in the Mercedes, 132.654. 7/10 away from the best time of the session, which still belongs to Arjun Miney. And then an improvement for Sophia Florsch, up to 17th with a 133.7. So those are the 2 improvements. And now you've got 9/10 of a second covering the top 14, which on a 1:32 lap is very close, and considering the length of the lap as well at 4.5 kilometres. Good mixture in there of different manufacturers. Mercedes, who dominated the first qualifying. Where there were 5 different manufacturers in the tops. Back into the pits to have some more adjustments, and that's part of free practice really. That's when you've got to try these setups. It's not just about making the car go quickly, it's about working out what makes it go slower as well and eliminating those setup changes. So there I can see into the pits about 100 meters below me from the top of the tower. I can see Timo Glock on the opposite side of the track in. Just in front of him I can see Lucas Auer, he's in as well. Hopefully he'll be going back out onto the circuit soon. And in the garage I can see Sheldon Van Der Linde is parked up for now as well. Also got Muller, Gore. That's it, I think. Those are the only ones in the pits currently. So Arjun Maini quickest, 131.882. Still the only driver to get in the 131s. 132.145 for Daniel Hunkadea. Philip Ellis third with a 132.219. Mercedes first, second and third. The Audi of Kelvin Van Der Linde, 132.223 is fourth. Max Scott's Mercedes fifth. Lamborghini Esteban Moot into sixth place. Arjun Maini's just come into the pits as well. So it's a little bit quieter out there on circuit as we look at Vincent Abril in the Team HRT Mercedes, that very distinctive yellow and blue colour scheme. Somebody brings a great deal of GT racing success and knowledge and experience into DTM. A 26-year-old from the south of France, Monaco in fact, and as a former Blancpain GT Series Sprint Cup champion back in 2015. Started his racing career in Seat Leons, racing in France. He was a race winner in that championship before he progressed to French GT. Then many years spent at the Blancpain Endurance and Sprint Cup championships. Was raced at Bathurst as well in the 12-hour race on numerous occasions, with a good result of sixth place a couple of years ago in 2019. Already a podium finisher in the 2021 DTM season. Got that pole position, as we said as well, after that excellent performance in first qualifying. Couldn't quite win the race, couldn't quite fend off Liam Lawson as he came out of the pits into turn one, but a good second place finish. Not so good in race two though, with an 11th and no points there, but fourth in the championship for Vincent Abril. Not many drivers had two good races. You had Kelvin Van Der Linde, who got points, including a win in both races. Nico Müller got points in both races. Alex Alban likewise, Max Scott's and Marco Wittmann. And that was it, I think. So just those drivers that managed to score points in both races in what was a very wide open competition. So is Abril getting on at the moment. He's 8th quickest currently. His best times are 132.595. His last lap was 132.995, about 4/10 of a second away from that. And he's just on a 132.7, so he's consistent, but he's not quite getting down to his best times. Replay here of the car, just drifting, sparking as it comes out onto the tri-oval banking. Getting away with it. That shows the bumpy nature of the surface here at the Lausitzring as well, which is something else to have to ride and deal with. Max Buch has made another improvement up to 9th place now with a 132.6. He's only 0.05 of a second away from the driver that you're looking at, Vincent Abril. Current times, you've got Buch, who's the quickest driver out there at the moment with a 132.6 last time around. Liam Lawson, second quickest driver out there. He's just done a 133.5, but he was in the 132s before that. And then it was Sophia Florsch going pretty quickly as well, but she's just headed into the pits as well. 17th place now for Sophia, 133.5, 1.6 seconds away from the absolute best time. And he's Mike Rockenfeller, who said that qualifying is what he's really got to work on. Had a very strong race two to get into the points at Monza. Came through from basically the back of the field to secure an 8th place finish, a very hard 8th place finish after a strong, entertaining late race battle with Esteban Moot. But 2 points finishes, you did get 2 point scoring finishes, but there were lowly point scoring finishes, a 10th and an 8th at Monza. But qualifying was definitely the problem, 11th and 17th. So his average grid so far this year is 14th, and that makes life very hard indeed. So he'll be looking to improve there. Somebody improving on track is Alex Alban, who's gone up to 2nd place. So Alban with a 132.143. That puts him just over 2.5 tenths, just over a quarter of a second slower than Arjun Maini. More on board action. You should ride with Arjun Maini, who's just been on a build-up lap. But now he's flying. He's just done the absolute best second sector time. Can he hold it together in the third sector? The first sector wasn't his best, but it was a pretty good one. So this looks like being another good lap, and it's another 131. Not quite his very best, but a 131.953. So by my reckoning, he's now got the fastest 3 times in this session. Argent looking really, really strong here. Seems to be loving this place already. It's his new favourite circuit, I reckon. So Argent Mining, excellent effort, a 131.953. Just a fraction away from his absolute best, but he's still the only driver. He's done it twice now that's got into the 131s. He's got just over 9.5 minutes to go in the session. And he's flying, and it's aggressive, and it's quick into the corners, but it all looks beautifully under control, doesn't it? Very smooth stuff from Miney, considering the speeds that he's taking here. And the car looks like it's handling beautifully on a pair of rails. And they're coming through shot then is Alex Alban, who's now Argent Mining's closest rival in terms of lap times. He's just done the absolute best second sector, so the lap time as a whole was down, but he started well with a personal best in sector 1, an absolute best in sector 2. He just lost out a little bit in the final sector with a 132.364. And Max Gotts has split the pair of them now as well. So Max has just done a 132.073, and he's on another flyer, personal best in the first sector of 19.8 seconds. Miney holds the absolute best first sector time. Alban is the quickest driver through sector 2. So that's a couple of tenths down on the very best first sector time for Max Gotts, but it's a good start to the lap nonetheless. Alex Alban in the AlphaTauri AF Corsa Ferrari. There's a partnership between Red Bull and Ferrari, the Amato Ferrari's team, AF Corsa. That's the AF of AF Corsa, Amato Ferrari, former racing driver. He retired early in his 20s from racing to become a team owner, team boss, and a huge success that he's enjoyed in international GT racing and now DTM. And they were the masters of the pit stops at the Lausitzring as well. Nobody could get anywhere near them in terms of their pit stop turnaround. They had the fastest outright pit stop of 6.961 seconds for Alex Alban at Monza. And none of its 4 pit stops across the weekend in the races was slower than 7.9 seconds. So that was their slowest, 7.9 seconds. The closest any other team came to them was the HRT Mercedes squad with a best of 8.7 seconds. They're a couple of seconds up. They've got a different technique that they use, a slightly different system on the wheel nuts on the car as well, which I'll talk about more. And they use some slightly different equipment. But all in all, a couple of seconds quicker, probably 3 seconds quicker than most others in the pits, which, you know, even if you're 2 or 3 tenths of a second a lap quicker, it can take 4 laps just to get a second back. Take, therefore, 10, 11, 12 laps to try and get that time back on track, just to claw back the time you lose in the pit stop. So it's a real strength for the team, it proved to be. The mastermind behind it is Ron Reichert, who was previously responsible for Audi's racing program out in Asia. He's been drafted in, they've done a lot of practice, and it really did pay off. Essentially what they've been doing is, if you will watch them in the pit stops in the races, but the mechanic that operates the wheel gun first loosens the front wheel, but then doesn't take it off completely. And that's something they're able to do because of the system on the tyres. So he loosens it, then goes to the rears, deals with the rears, and then comes back to the front. He doesn't take off the front and wait in that dead time, that dead 1 or 2 seconds for the new tyre to arrive. It's a very slick system they've got. Just running a little bit wide there was Alex. Nothing too dramatic, but just might have cost him a tenth or so. But his last lap time, 132.182, was very close to his absolute best lap time. It was only half a tenth of a second away. So he's still motoring along. Argent Mining's last lap time was a 132.1 as well. So they are the 2 quickest drivers out there by some distance. No, take that back. Max Gotts is slightly quicker, 132.087. You've got the 3 of them in the very low 132s. And the next quickest driver out there is Nico Muller, who's just done a 132.4, and others are in 133 type territory, maybe going for longer runs, for longer setup. Argent Mining has come into the pits. You can see down below, it looks like they're doing a pit stop practice as well, which all looks pretty slick. Car drops off the jacks and away he goes. So they're using the free practice session to get these practice pit stops in as well. So Mining in, but straight back out again with fresh tyres on. So Mining, who's quickest, just going back out. Gotts second quickest, Alban third quickest, are on track. Unkadea fourth and Ellis fifth are in the pits. Kelvin Van Der Linde, sixth quickest, is on track. Esteban Moot, seventh quickest, is in the pits. And then the rest of the top 10, Muller, Abril and Book, are all out on the circuit. You've got Sheldon Van Der Linde, Lucas Auer, Mike Rockefeller, Liam Lawson and Timo Glock in the pits as well. And there is a very understeery moment for Dev Gore. He goes way out of the shot, all four wheels through the gravel trap. Hopefully reappears in a second or two on the slow-mo. Yes, he does. And hopefully drags it across the grass before he gets to the tyre barriers, which I think he will. But that won't have done the tyres a great deal of good, the Michelins, so he might be headed for the pits. Currently 16th quickest, Dev Gore, losing an awful lot of time on that lap, as you can imagine. His best laps are 132.938, so you've now got the top 15 are all within a second of each other. Vincent Abril's improved up to 7th, 132.307 for him. So we go to the final 4 minutes of this first 45-minute free practice session. And more cars look like they're starting to go out onto the circuit now for this final portion. I can see Esteban Moot has left the garage in his Lamborghini. Lucas Auer, he's up on the jacks at the moment, all four wheels off, and maybe he won't go out anymore after this. Remember at Monza he hardly did any running at all in the first free practice session. Liam Lawson's Red Bull liveried Lamborghini, Ferrari heading out on track. I'm a bit shot saying that. The Ferrari going out now. And so he's going to rejoin for the last couple of moments. So most of the cars, I think, are going to be out on track for the last part of the session. Philip Ellis, maybe not. His car's still, I can see, in the garage. The two Rover BMWs are both in their garages as well, so they might not be going back out for the rest of the session. But the vast majority are out there on track. Got Max Gotts, who's been putting some good lap times in, has come into the pits now. So second with a 132.047, almost getting into the 131s, but not quite. So Sophia Florsch, who'd been doing some personal bests in her last session on track, back on the circuit now. Vincent Abril comes into the pits on the other side of the pit wall, heading into turn one then with Sophia Florsch, and charging through with the ex-Formula 4 racer. And there, not seen too much of him in this session, is Nico Muller. So Muller doing okay, 9th quickest. Best is a 132.36, and it's just on a 132.65. So pace is pretty good at the moment. You can see him pushing on there, getting close to the wall as he dares, before then heading into the braking zone and turning off at turn 2, the tri-oval, heading into that twisty infield section through turns 2 and 3. S-bend section realistically, which lead one into the other, into the left-hander at turn 4 before you get another couple of short straights, or shortish straights. They're fairly long actually, but relative to the straight of the banking, they're much shorter straights, linked by this right-hand hairpin at turn 5. So they go one way, come back on themselves and go the other, heading back towards the outside of turn 2. They'll never get that far. They'll turn back in on themselves and eventually work their way through turns 8, the right, and turn 9, the left, back out onto the final turn, turn 10, which is the last corner of the banking. So 1 minute and 12 seconds to go. We've had a personal best for Nico Muller through that first sector, but he was down in the second sector. We've had an absolute best through sector 1 for Arjun Maini, beating his own personal best through that sector. So he did a 19.6 before, he's done a 19.598 now. So Arjun Maini with another really good lap here. He's been the outstanding driver of the session, that is for sure. Can he keep it going through sectors 2 and 3? We complete the lap with last year's championship runner-up Nico Muller, and that's a 132.5. So as you'd expect from an excellent driver like Nico, he's able to be consistent. Those two last laps were within 1/10 of a second of each other. Back on board then with Arjun Maini, who was a 38.475 through the second sector. So that was all good, but he bails the lap, as you saw there, turning off the circuit. But that first sector was glistening. So, in fact, he was only a 10th down on the absolute best in sector 2 as well, which still belongs to Alex Alban. So the first 2/3 of that lap, even though it wasn't a personal best in sector 2, were really good. But he bails, doesn't finish the lap in the end. So I think the potential is even a little bit more to come from Arjun Maini. He could maybe even get a 1:31.7, which is absolutely flying. But we'll have to wait later on to see if he can maintain that pace. But the consistency with which he's been able to do it and the number of quick laps he's done is equally as encouraging as the lap time itself. So Arjun Maini, star of Free Practice 1, the Indian driver. Great effort from him as the clock has now ticked down to 0. Maini will finish the first competitive session of the weekend atop the times and by 0.165 seconds ahead of Max Scott. Alex Alban with a late improvement went up to 3rd. Daniel Hunkadea was thereabouts most of the way through the session, 4th quickest. Philip Ellis 5th. Kelvin Van Der Linde, the championship leader, 6th. And we've still got Esme Hawkey out there. He's just done a personal best lap time and he's on another personal best here. PBs in the first 2 sectors. Is this another improvement? 1:32.919, not quite, but 2 good laps on the bounce there from Esme right at the end of the session. A penultimate lap was her fastest of the 45 minutes with a 1:32.859. You've got Liam Lawson 15th, Marco Wittmann 16th, Esme Hawkey 17th, all within 54 thousandths of a second of each other, those 3 drivers. So Esme Hawkey is 17th, but she's only 0.97 seconds away from the quickest time of the session, which shows you just how tight it is. All but 2 drivers within a second of each other. So Esme Hawkey bringing the car back. She'll be pretty satisfied with that lap time, I would think, given this is her first foray into DTM racing and her first attempt at the Lausitzring circuit. So plenty of laps complete. Timo Glock was the one that didn't do many laps, and we saw him struggling with the set of the car coming in and out of the pit. So he only did 9 laps. And not too many laps either for Sheldon Van der Linde and Lucas Auer. They only did 14 laps. Most of the others have done between 18 and 22 laps. And the most prolific drivers have been 2 of the quickest drivers. So Arjun Maini and Alex Alban both did 24 laps in that session, both very busy out on track for that first 45 minutes. There he is then, Arjun Maini, with a terrific effort for Mercedes in the team Get Speed AMG to take the fastest time, and in fact by my maths the fastest 3 times of the session. 2 in the 1:31s. His very best was a 1:31.882, and the 23-year-old will be incredibly satisfied with his morning's work so far. They'll be out for another 45-minute practice session later on today. 2 longer sessions these days in DTM, so it will be 4:05 local time, and we'll cover that at 4 o'clock onwards. So 5 minutes before the session goes live, we'll be there to talk you through that second free practice, which runs from 4:05 until 5:10. And then overnight to think about things as Arjun Maini heads back away before they go qualifying tomorrow at 10:30, the first of 2 20-minute qualifying sessions. The race time, as ever, is going to be just after 1:30 on Saturday and Sunday, and our live coverage of that will start just about 15 minutes or so before the races begin at 1:15 local time both days. So a busy session for most drivers. Bit of a worry for Timo Glock, having only done 9 laps and being absolutely bottom of the pile in terms of his lap times. So some head scratching there for Timo and the team, who've had a bit of a struggle so far in this new season. As I've said, qualifying he has struggled, 17th and a non-finish in the 2 races at Monza. And his best qualifying performance so far is a 13th place. Timo Glock, as one of the more experienced drivers out there, will expect more and he'll need to improve. But at the top of the times, as you can see the results there, 1:31.882 seconds for Arjun Maini, a 1:32.04 for Max Scott. Alex Alban 3rd, Daniel Hunkadea, Philip Ellis and Kelvin Van Der Linde round out the top 6. Nico Muller thereabouts in 7th with some consistent lap times. Abril Moot and Book rounding out the top 10. Kelvin Van Der Linde in 11th place, and Lucas Auer completed the top 12 at the end of that first 45-minute practice session here at the Lausitzring. It's been a good session. We've got more to come later on today. Thanks for watching. Join us again later on this afternoon for free practice 2 of DTM here at the Lausitzring.